Good evening. I'd like to call the Monday, September 9th, 2024 Blue Springs Planning Commission meeting to order. Please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tracy, how about a roll call?
You got it. Humphrey,
Here.
Stokenberry,
Here.
Smith, Sanderson,
Here.
Cradoff,
Present.
Graham,
Present.
Howe,
Here.
Ingersoll,
Here.
Chairperson Henning.
Here. Thank you and welcome everyone this evening here and watching from home. Tonight's agenda consists of item 1A, the minutes from our August 26th meeting. Item 2, the PUD final site plan design review for McAllister's Deli. Item 3, community development monthly report. Item 4, future training and discussion topics, and then adjournment. At this time, I would entertain a motion on the consent agenda for the approval of the minutes from the August 26th, 2024 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
I have a first motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
This motion carries. At this time, the next item is number 2, final site plan design review, PUDS 09249293 for McAllister's Deli. I'm getting hungry just talking about it. At this time, Ms. Friday, you have a presentation for us.
I do. Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. Before you this evening is a request for approval of a plan unit development final plan site plan design review for the McAllister Deli located at located at 1221 Northeast Coronado Drive. This location is currently zoned for general business PUD with a restricted overlay. The site is currently undeveloped, featuring a flat open area with existing trees and the landscape buffers to the north and south of the site. All healthy trees and shrubs located in the southern landscape buffer will be preserved. McAllister's Deli is classified as a fast food restaurant permitted under this existing zoning, and the proposed building would adhere to the requirements of a pad site building. All proposed site improvements and development for the McAllister's Deli will be completed in a single phase. All of the parking requirements have been met, and all of the required bicycle parking has also been met. Access to the site will be via existing share easements along Northeast Coronado Drive, one from the east through the Arby's parking lot, and another from the west behind the retail strip shopping center. The site does not require any other public improvements. A comprehensive traffic study was conducted, indicating that the proposed development of the McAllister's Deli will have a minimal impact on the adjacent roadway system. Northeast Coronado Drive currently has sufficient capacity to accommodate the expected traffic. In terms of the stormwater management, the development plans to connect to established detention facilities, which are located in the southeast corner of Lot 1. Each lot within Area 2, which is the entire shopping center area, will establish its own connection to the main stormwater conveyance system to ensure proper drainage and compliance with city standards. There is a gravity sewer located on the north side of the development, which will be utilized pending the confirmation of a sewer invert elevations by an engineer or surveyor. The development follows the plan unit development regulations, which facilitate innovative planning that prioritizes environmental sensitivity, characteristic aesthetics, and high quality development. The main goal is to enhance the character of the area while effectively utilizing the land. The final landscaping plan meets the UDC requirements. There will be substantial landscaping added to the drive-through exit to shield the traffic on Northeast Coronado from headlights exiting the drive-through or pickup window. The architectural design of the 3,528 square foot pad site building will feature materials such as stone veneer and brick with the modern enhancements like awnings and patio canopies, and the aesthetics of the building will be marked by a color palette of grays and greens with orange accents. An outdoor lighting plan included LED fixtures to ensure the safety and visibility, while all roof mounted and ground level equipment will be screened in compliance with the regulation. Staff recommends approval of the plan unit development final plan, site plan design review with the 3 conditions stated in the staff report, and I would be happy to answer any questions that commissioners may have.
Any questions for staff before we hear from the applicant? Hearing none, thank you. And is the applicant here?
Yes.
Would you like to add anything? Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Sure. It's Richard Michael, 25604 Northeast Colburn Road, Lee Summit, Missouri 64086. I'm here on behalf of the applicant. I'm the civil engineer that put the plans together. I don't really have anything to add. I can just here for questions.
Any questions for the applicant? Seeing none, thank you very much. Any further discussions or questions from the commissioners for staff or the applicant? Everybody's just hungry, right? All right, hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
Chair,
Yes, sir.
I move to approve PUD 09249293 for McAllister Deli with the 3 staff conditions.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. With the 3 conditions, I presume that was the case. All right, moving on. Mr. McCumber. Would you like to present on last month's numbers, please?
All right, good evening. So just taking a quick glance at some of the building permit activity from the month of August 2024, and then also comparing August 2023 to that, as well as year-to-dates from the past this year and previous year. So in terms of single-family detached permits in August 2024, it is down slightly from 2023. However, as we look at the year overall, we are up at this point compared to 2023. So it's just going to be some fluctuation from year to year that's going on there. Also taking a look at our total building permits overall is pretty much on par with where we were last year, slightly up, but generally speaking, pretty much at the same point at this time. Something to note down in the building related activity section, while overall permits are pretty consistent with last year, the actual total construction costs is up substantially for 2024 as compared to 2023, you can see there. Kind of a graphic showing the single family building permits for the month of August. As you can see, it's down a little bit of from last year at this time. Down in the code enforcement activity section, like usual, public health, safety, and welfare are some of the larger case volumes that we have in that particular division. Here's a graph here showing the total code cases for 2023 compared to 2024, and we are down just slightly for the month of August. Kind of a breakdown of those top code case types there at the bottom. And then just a quick snapshot of the planning activity for the month of August. We had fairly busy month with planning cases, so you can see what came through and were approved or denied. If there's any questions that you may have, I'd be happy to answer on any of those. And then lastly, sign permits, pretty much consistent with last year as well to this point, so be happy to answer any questions you may have.
On that first page of building-related activity, year-to-date for 2023 was about 35 million versus 100 million so far for this year. Is there one particular big project that encases the big difference, or what you attribute that to?
There are some large school district projects that have been
School
going
district.
on that probably play into a lot of that.
Thank you. I was just curious.
Absolutely.
Any other questions? Conversations, comments? Thank you, Dave.
All right.
All right. Future training and discussion of topics. Mike, give us a rundown and your thoughts.
Yes, this has been an item that had come up on occasion prior to our newest appointments back in May, about not only redoing or bringing everybody back up to speed with a training that we did back in 2019, from a staff perspective, going through the code, going through each of the development application types, running through the code criteria that the Planning Commission should be using to review all of those, and also kind of just going over our development process in general to help refresh all the planning commissioners with that. And so I had been thinking about putting that on the agenda, but I also know a couple of planning commissioners have asked us about other informational items or other training topics that we could provide to the commission, but wanted to be able to get all of your opinion on how best to coalesce those topics into kind of a grouping of how do we bring them forward, and would request your input as to whether it's best to funnel those through the chair, funnel those through staff, or to just kind of have a general discussion about how, if there's a certain topic that one planning commissioner would like us to discuss, such as maybe small scale multifamily housing and some of the trends related to that, or infill development, or industrial development, or any of those different topics, and I'm just throwing those out there, how it would be best for us to kind of have a process for bringing those forward to you, and not having us do it at every meeting, but also give us some sort of outline or organization to it all, so that we can make sure that we're prepared when we bring those to you, and so that it's not more of a one planning commissioner requests one type of training and another's requesting this type of training. We, as you know, we only have a very limited number of meetings in a given year where we don't have very many items. Tonight being one where we would probably have another half hour, 45 minutes, or to be able to talk about some certain topics. But just wanted to get all of your thoughts so that we can make the best of that time, and also make sure that we're prepared. Because we try to get our agendas out, Wednesday or Thursday before the next planning commission meeting, and it usually would take us a week or two to pull together some information, depending on how much research was wanting to be done. But we are going to be starting a comprehensive plan process later this year, the fourth quarter of this year into the beginning of next year. I think only Commissioner Graham has been involved in the adoption of a comprehensive plan from the Planning Commission perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And so that could be a topic that we bring up as to how the comprehensive plan works, the state statutes regarding the adoption of the comprehensive plan. We have not issued an RFP yet to find a consultant for that, but we will within the next few months. And so I can envision that being a topic, but that's about all I can think of. I think there's a lot of topics that we can bring forward, but want to make sure that we're using it to the best of everybody's time, and making sure it's productive, for staff and for the planning commission.
Thank you. A couple questions, and then I'll open it up to fellow commissioners. Back in 2019, which sounds so long ago, even though it wasn't, what did that training look like? Was it after a meeting, or was it separate from a meeting?
It was
And-
on a night where we didn't have anything currently
Okay.
scheduled.
Okay.
We did still open it up to the public. You know, it wasn't like a closed session or anything. There was no public hearing, no notice. We just had a meeting. I don't believe we televised it, but I think we video recorded it. So, that was kind of the format, open to suggestions on that, but it was just a normally scheduled meeting, where we didn't have something that evening. But I think we would have gone ahead and done it that night if something had come up on the agenda as well. So like on an evening like tonight, we're done by 7:15 on a pretty easy item. And so we could have, it was about an hour, so we could have added that to tonight's meeting. It was a PowerPoint presentation, and then I ran through it and then took questions after the end.
Well, one of the questions that I have is, we have a few new commissioners, and I don't know for sure. I know when I came on again 2 years ago, I was on 8 or 9 years ago. I don't think there was ever any formal training as a new commissioner. So I have a question for staff, and then also we have a couple new ones down here on this side. I don't know what kind of experience you guys have. Has there ever been a new planning commissioner type of training from your side? And then also from you guys or anybody that's here, would you feel like you would benefit from an hour or two overview of any type of training session for kind of like an overview of the whole gumption of how it all works?
We do not do a formalized training. Each planning commissioner, when they're newly appointed, comes in and meets with me and I, or with Dave or whoever's in that position, and runs through formats of meetings. I do hand out the packet that I did in the 2019 training. And I believe we also hand out a copy of a planning commissioner training that the Missouri Municipal League did, but it's pretty dated now. And there's some general government boards and commission liability stuff, and so most of that general introduction is, here's our code, here's how the site plan process works, here's where to go look for information, and also here's how to kind of stay out of trouble. So
Which we used to do that as, I can't remember if it was annually but the city attorney would go through a presentation. I think it was almost annually sometimes, or if we had a big influx of new commissioners. And then we also used to do some joint training sessions with Independence and Lee Summit, and they would rotate.
we did used to do that. It was
That was years ago, though.
Yeah, that was when I first started back in 2018. We were still doing that. And that's something we can certainly look into. What happened on those is frankly, the assistant directors of the different cities, community development directors, were very close and would always work on putting those out. And then all three of the assistant directors kind of left at the same time. And I didn't have that same relationship that they did with the ones in Independence and Lee Summit. And so we kind of lost track of that for a while. I think we called it the Eastern Jackson County Planning Commissioners Workshops or something.
But it was it wasn't on a regular night. And most of the time when we would do any type of a training class, it wouldn't be on a normal planning commission night, as I recall. It was always a different night of the week.
Yeah, I remember doing one down in Lee Summit, and we had some home builders come and talk to us. I think we have a good enough relationship now with at least the planning staff at Lee Summit. I'm not real sure the status of the planning staff up in Independence right now, but I think that's something we could look at doing again. I think some of those were valuable. But yeah, I think we did do a public officials liability training.
It's
Might have been 2021 or 22. We did it out at the conference center. That was for planning commission, city council, board of adjustment and things. So I think that's something we could look into as well as a training topic, is having and even look at doing that annually, because that's one of our jobs is to make sure that you all know the right ways to ask questions, how to, the role of the planning commission, and to keep make sure that nobody gets into any trouble legally. So I will add that to it.
Commissioner Pumphrey and Ingersoll, you guys are new. Have you ever done this before? Do you have any questions? Do you feel like you'd benefit from any type of additional formal or informal Q&A session or training with either staff or us as a body?
I don't think I'd see any benefit in like going over all the building codes and stuff like that.
Sure.
But maybe, I don't know, when I came in, none of them, we sat down for an hour and explained out everything to me. So I feel like between that and the packet, I got a pretty decent grasp.
Okay.
Personally, the only thing I don't have a grasp on is what motion to say when and how. But that's not there.
Yeah, and I would agree with that sentiment.
Okay.
That like reviewing the project types and like site plan review, PUD review, those sorts of pieces. There was a really good summary version of it in the packet that Mike provided, as well as the like legal procedures. The motion cheat sheet, I would say, is probably the thing that continue to refer to.
Maybe that's something, if it's updated, that you could hand out to the commissioners,
Mm-hmm.
and just, that could be part of self-training.
Yeah, I updated it relatively recently, but yeah, making sure that that's all up to date, because the last time we did it in 2019, conditional use permits were still decided upon by the planning commission, and we didn't have a few other code processes that we do now, and so updating that to reflect some of that would be beneficial. And also if there's any other legal things that have come out since then, we could certainly update that and provide it to you. But also if there's other like topics, because of budget cuts over the last few years, our ability to send planning commissioners to trainings like the APA national conference or the APA state conference has gone down, unless it's the one that's here in Kansas City. It's gotten expensive to send people to New Orleans or New York City, and frankly, when we did have people, we didn't have a lot of people who could take off work. There were some individuals that could. I know, Byron, Commissioner Cradoff had been to one, and former Commissioner Mitchell Peel had been to a couple, but there wasn't a lot of other interest to go to a 5-day conference in New Orleans. But the state conference is here every 3 years or something like that, or if there's other local APA things, we pay for an APA, American Planning Association membership for all of you. So there are availability for trainings online that are free. So general planning topics, or what's the trend with single family house design, or subdivision layout, or any of those types of things, mixed use, we'd be happy to provide information on if there's a general sentiment about what at any point. Now, we don't have to figure this out tonight. That's part of the reason I wanted to bring this up, is if a commissioner had an idea for a future training item, or not even training, just an informational session, what would be the best way to have that be directed to staff to do? In my opinion, I think it's something that somebody could let me know or let the chair know, and then I think we could work that out as to how to do that. But I think there has to be some sort of organization to it, so that we make sure that it's a shared sentiment. If more than one people or multiple people have the same idea or would like the same kind of information, then that would probably be a little bit more beneficial. given that we don't have a lot of these evenings where we can do these. So, like your input on that as well.
Well, I think it's important to remind the fellow commissioners that if you have an idea or a topic for training, please do submit it to staff or myself, but you already have staff's contact information via email. You can reply to Tracy's email, and she can forward it if you don't have Mike's or Dave's email. And you can keep a running list of short topics of what we can add to another short meeting, our next short
Yeah.
meeting. I think it's important to remind everybody that we have an open communication link to staff, and we have a city councilman here every single meeting, and the rest of the city council and the mayor, that if you ever have a question or concern about the minutes or agenda items or projects that may be coming forth that are contentious, you have an open communication policy with staff, and we have full support of staff and the city council and the mayor. So I'd like to make sure everybody knows that. I frequently email staff from time to time, and every once in a while yank the ear of my councilman that I know. Sometimes they don't answer my call because they know I'm gonna blab, but that's a different issue that we won't talk about tonight. So that's my thoughts on training. I just think it's very important to emphasize the open link of communication that we have and the support that we have as planning commissioners. If you have any training ideas, please submit them to anybody. And I think that's probably nearing the conclusion of my thoughts on this.
Okay.
Anything else?
No, I'd like to echo all of what you said, again, I think with the comprehensive plan process kicking off, there's a lot of planning concepts, planning trends that other cities are doing throughout the country that may be new to what we see here in Blue Springs, whether it's any type of development. And as part of that process, I think we need to make sure we have that open line of communication, and maybe even leading up to that process would be a good opportunity for staff to maybe even look at some recently adopted comprehensive plans from some of our neighbors. I know the city of Lenexa just did one. I think the city of Belton is wrapping one up. Kansas City did one. That's a little bit bigger scale than what we would imagine, but to at least get us thinking more along those lines, and maybe in the habit of having more open dialogue and staff being more prepared to answer questions, and commissioners feel comfortable asking questions, because that planning process will necessitate that. And so rather than us just come here and take 7 minutes out of your night to, and I know that's great too, especially when there's a game or something on, but rather than us just coming here for 7 minutes approving of McAllister's and everybody going home, there would be certain opportunities available where we can better engage you and get your opinions on some of the work that we do.
One thing I would say just before we wrap up, if you don't mind, is when we do this, if you're gonna add it to the end of the evening, which I think is a great idea, I think it's a quick discussion and an open for communication, open question and answer session, but just a quick hit of the topic. And I think that would stick with the group better than if we go into a long, like try to cram in multiple items. If we do one or two and do a very fast hitting and open it up.
Okay.
And then it sticks with us. Thank you.
It's a great idea.
I have a question. Mr. Mallon, is it possible, has this ever been done, can the planning commissioners have a closed session where we meet? It's just the board of commissioners, yourself, and maybe the city attorney, where we go into an area where we talk about some things of concern that we want to discuss and maybe not air it out to the public?
I'd have to defer to our city attorney on that. There are only certain items where a governmental body can go into closed sessions. I'm not sure what or if any of those would be applicable to the planning commission. I know for the city council, it involves items where they're in negotiations or discussing personnel matters or contracts or discussion of real estate deals and things of that nature where the information provided is it could cause harm to the city or to an individual if it were to be made public. And I'm grossly summarizing this, John, so step in whenever, but I'm not sure if, unless it were to be to receive legal advice from the city attorney on potentially how to avoid a ex parte conflict or something.
Sure. And a lot of those, I think, could be more easily answered just if you've got specific legal questions, just to come and meet with me or any future city attorneys and just ask whatever questions you may have. And Mike talked about it earlier. A lot of firms similar to mine, we do generally the same land use type presentation that we would do, and I think that would answer probably a fair amount of your legal questions as it pertains to your role and obligations and the scope of your review as the planning commissioner and kind of how all the law touches on everything you're looking at. And most of the firms and attorneys in the metro do something very, very similar, and I think you talked about it, and I'm sure something like that could certainly be provided pretty quickly that would probably cover what I would imagine to be 90% or more of any of the questions you might have, and obviously open door policy if you've got anything
So
else.
if we had a question that we just wanted to keep amongst the commissioners, I'm sure you would be there to guide us whether or not we had to bring staff in or city council in or something of that nature. It could be questions that we just wanted to talk amongst ourselves to maybe get an answer to.
Well, to the extent that there would be a basis for a closed executive session, I'm not sure. I mean, I'd have to think about it. I doubt it. For what there could be, just because the role of what the planning commission isn't really the same as what the city council's is when they go into executive session. I mean, just your review is altogether different of projects. So trying to tie that into a basis under the Sunshine Law is something different. We'd have to find a basis to tie it and close it under the Sunshine Law. And just given what we're talking about right now, I don't have enough to answer your question specifically, but that's my general answer is, like Mike said, under the Sunshine Law, we'd have to find a basis to close it, depending on what it is. And I don't know that just kind of wanting to talk about general concerns would, really amount to a specific reason for closure. General kind of concerns could be talked about in an open discussion, like we said, during some sort of land use or official liability conversation with attorneys as part of the training process. Or if you've got an individual question that you'd want to talk to the attorney about, you can always go in and meet with me or any other attorneys that represent the city.
Yeah, and there's even sometimes where, and this is just an example, like all of the planning commission meetings where we have agenda items are on TV, they're in this room. But there are sometimes, and the city council is the same way, except when they go into a closed executive session under the Sunshine Law, which generally discourages doing that unless it's a imperative, not imperative, that's the wrong word. If it legitimately serves the government's interest for one of those criteria. But there are other times where the city council has a planning session or a work session or a session to discuss the budget, where those meetings don't take place in the council chambers. They're not necessarily televised. They are open to the public and they are noticed. We notice it on the website and we notice it at City Hall, but it's not a televised discussion. And so sometimes those types of meetings provide for a more open dialogue than something that's on YouTube or something like that. So that could be an option as well, especially for one of those training items. When we did the training with Eastern Jackson County Planning Commissioners, that's not something that was done in this room or was on TV or anything. And I'm not saying this to try to hide that discussion. I'm just trying to say that some of those trainings and stuff aren't necessarily appropriate for the public forum that we have here in the council chambers. So that could be an option too, is we hold a training at City Hall. It's open to the public if they wanted to come. But sometimes that does allow for a little bit more of a informal discussions about some of the issues related to the code. It's an application in one case versus another, not another, and things of that nature. How staff arrives at our recommendation for cases, things of that nature could be appropriate in that session, in that kind of setting.
What if there are occurrences of situations that actually happen here in the courtroom here while we're having sessions and with the public? If we have some concerns about that, would this be the proper venue to talk about those type of issues?
I would suggest if you have specific items that I'd be happy to meet with you or set up a meeting between me and our city attorney and the chair or something of that nature, especially if there's a specific item.
And would that be something we should share amongst all of the commissioners, or would that be at your discretion to?
I think that would be at the chair's discretion and my discretion with input from our city attorney.
I would just say one thing. It's my understanding, and you were touching on it, that the sunshine law is very, very specific. And if you're meeting with anybody more than
3.
Is it more than 3?
It's a quorum of, if you meet with a quorum of the whatever group, and
Yeah.
so.
It has to be public. There's very few circumstances where it's not. And so
Right.
that may be one of the heavy-hitting subjects that we talk about and open it up to discussion, sunshine law and how we fall under that. There'd be some good training.
Yeah, that's typically part of our public officials liability training is that, and that's why it's generally discouraged for planning commissioners to get together outside of a meeting and go out to dinner or something like that, because that if this whole group were to go out to dinner, that would be an open meeting, and we would have to post that and let everybody know where we were going to dinner and what time and all that stuff. So even if it's with 9 commissioners, if 5 commissioners got together and ever found themselves in the same room together, even at, say, an APA conference, we would generally have to post that if people were talking about city business. So the Sunshine Law in Missouri is very geared towards transparency with the public. And so
That's what the law says. The law says, the Missouri Sunshine Law says it is the policy of the state that meetings be open to the public, records and meetings be open to the public, except to the extent the city council is authorized to close records pursuant to the Sunshine Law itself, and it enumerates a number of very limited circumstances. For example, causes of legal action, personnel, real estate, very, very few limited circumstances, most of which would pertain to issues that are the city council's addressing. Obviously, there could be something comes up that might necessitate a closed meeting between some or several commissioners or the commission itself. I'm hard pressed to come up with an example off the top of my head right now, but predominantly it would be for the city council.
yeah, I'm not aware of any other boards or commissions other than the land bank, because they take official action on real estate. They go into executive or closed sessions. I think there has even been talk about potential for other boards to do it, but it has to be tied directly to one of those applicable abilities to do it. And the Sunshine Law is very specific about what those fall under. And so whether or not a planning commission, and that's something we can look into. I'm not,
Several of the bases for closure, I mean, most of the applicable ones relate to discussions between representatives, myself, and the public governmental body. I mean, that's the primary purpose for when we meet under closure. I mean, one of the most common ones is litigation, causes of legal action, just body, which would be the council itself. So we'd have to caveat that with findings. I mean, I'm just hard pressed to find an example of where it would be the commission itself. There might be a meeting where the commission members or portions of the commission might be invited to a meeting with the council, but I mean, like we said, the Sunshine Law is very, very specific about when closed executive session can occur or the basis for closure for records.
Having heard all that, Commissioner Crowell, I don't, not knowing what you're asking or where you're going, it doesn't sound like what you are questioning falls under those parameters whatsoever. Having said that, this is a perfect opportunity, since it was a slow meeting. Should you feel like you want to bring anything up, this is what we're here for right now, is at the end of a meeting to have an open forum, healthy conversation. And if not, then I will always make myself available. I'm available after tonight's meeting if you'd like to discuss anything.
Well,
However you
I brought
feel
this
like you
issue
want to
up
proceed.
for about a year. You know, if any of the commissioners might have something that they wanted to share, not just myself. So I don't know if it's just me that would like to speak. I know in the past there were other commissioners here that spoke about those sentiments as well. So I can't speak for the rest of you. But if we had the opportunity, would we share that information amongst each other? But I talked with staff and I asked questions about how we can go about that. So came up today, so I thought I'd ask again. But something I guess we could discuss and find out how we can do that in the future if we want to talk amongst each other. But Mr. Mallon just said, you know, you could come by and speak to him, and the city attorney said his door is open. So I guess according to the sunshine laws of what you're saying now, that's the roadmap we have to go along. So I don't have a problem with that, but I do think there are some issues that have occurred in here that deem discussion, and I don't know how we should go about talking about it. I believe we should talk about it amongst each other, but the rest of you may have some questions as well. But I can't speak for you. I can only speak for myself.
Well, speaking for yourself, we hear you, and I would love to have a chat with you after the meeting.
Sure.
Or after any meeting about anything, as well as open door policy with staff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and at the discretion of the mayor and city council, that is one of the things that we've talked about with them as well, is the potential to have a joint planning commission, city council study session or meeting. Just, I know they did it in the past, but that has been brought up by the planning commission over years past as wanting some time, and so that's certainly something I can take forward as well. Other, ideas like that, just send them our way, and so.
I think I remember that being discussed on and off. And quite frankly, being chair, I would ask that perhaps you inquire about that. I think once a year, something like that would provide commissioners with a little more feeling of enmeshment on the right track, on the same track, on the parallel track. The goals are the same, and also just informal discussions with the council, because much of what we do goes to them for final approval or denial. And that can never be a bad thing. So thank you for that. Ms. Culpepper, you're here tonight. Do you have any comments you'd like to add for us based on this discussion and open communication? And
I think open communication is great. A joint meeting would be fine. I don't see anyone have any objections to that. As far as closed meetings, they're real meeting. The only thing, as has been stated, that we deal with behind closed doors are legal matters, real estate matters, and personnel matters. Basically, those three things. Beyond that, everything that we do is open also. And if we have a quorum, we have to make sure it's posted. So everything that is dealt with here needs to be open, because you want the input from the public, and that is so very important with the items that are dealt with at the planning commission level and then on to the council level. I mean, it's all for a good reason. So, but if anybody has any concerns, there isn't a single one of us on the council that isn't available whenever you need to, if you want to talk about it, if you've got issues, we're always available. I know I'm always available, so.
there's also a very convenient link on the city's website. You can look up the city council, and there's one little link that you can click on to email all of them at once. They make it really easy, so just click on that one link.
You seem to speak from experience.
Just a few times over something that we're working on previously. But yeah, I just stress what you just said, Susan. They're fun people to talk to, and they're our elected officials, and they're that's what their job is to respond. So.
And we want your input. That's why there's always someone here from the city council, because we want to know what is said. When you hear it and you listen to the discussion, sometimes you pick up on things that you wouldn't otherwise. So that's why you'll always have someone here from the city council.
Mm-hmm. And that's been a tradition for
As long as I've been
a
around.
long, long time.
Yeah,
And we won't talk about how long you've been.
a day or two. You were there with me, so.
All right, so I think it's come to a clear consensus that if anybody feels like there should be anything private or closed, that should be brought to the city attorney's or Mike's attention or my direction as chair, and that there is realistically on an extremely, extremely rare instance, if ever, that will be the case. And trailing on that, there's we've talked multiple times about the open door policy. So I've always gotten quick responses. I always had friendly faces when I've gotten on the phone with staff and showed up in person. And that continues. Any other thoughts from our city attorney?
Nothing. I think
Okay.
you summarized it excellently, and Mike did a great job as well. Thank you, Mike.
Down here, any commissioners down here? Nothing? Guys, anything? Speak now or forever hold your peace down there, staff. Anything?
Nope.
Anything you want to add?
No, I think we're here to
All right.
foster open communication, provide as much information as we can to you, and help you make the decisions that you do and serve the city. And I think with the amount of development projects we've had over the years, we've, not necessarily had enough time to do that. And with the number of new planning commissioners that we have over the last 5 years, I think any kind of information that we can pass on to you, or that you would like us to bring to your attention, can only be beneficial for the city.
Thank you very much. Hearing that, I assume you have no other business for us tonight.
We do not.
Any other business or comments or discussions from the commissioners? I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second, and all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? This meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.